in example 4, we have the graph of f of x, so that's the red graph, and its image, so the image is the blue graph, and they tell you that there's been vertical and horizontal stretches and compressions. We need to work backwards now and write the equation. All the questions we've done so far have given us the equation and asked us to graph. Now they've given us the graph, and we need to work backwards to come up with the equation. And we're going to do this question in 2 different ways. We're going to start with the easy way, which will make a lot of sense. And then you would say, well, why are you going to show me a more complicated way after that? That makes less sense. The reason is because later on, we'll have harder questions, and we'll have to use the more complicated method later on. So we'll show it to you already to get an idea for it. But to start off with, we're going to do the easy way. And the easy way would say, okay, well, what did I do when I worked forwards? When I worked forwards, I found out what it was, horizontal stretch compression. I wrote out the points that I knew. So I would have written out, here I have 2 comma negative 8, and 3 comma 9, and 0 comma 0. I would have drawn my arrow diagram. I would have written above what I needed to do, but I don't know that yet. And then I would have got my new points. Oh, I do know my new points. I know that 2 comma negative 8 goes to 1 comma negative 4. I know that 3 comma 9 goes to 1.5 comma 4.5. And I know that 0, 0 ended up staying at 0, 0. So when working backwards, now we're writing out what we know and trying to work our way backwards to figure out what were other things that we wrote down when we figured it out forwards. What can I figure them out now? Like, could you figure out what you need to write above the arrows? Like, look at our x values. X went from 2 to 1, from 3 to 1.5, and from 0 to 0. Is there something that you could say x was multiplied by to do that? Yes. A half. What about the y values? Negative 8 to 4, 9 to 4.5, 0 to 0. Is there something y was multiplied by? Also, a half. So you see how we're working backwards? We had the points, and we figured out these. If we have these, we can figure out the equation. The y by a half, that's a vertical compression. That half would be outside of the function, and exactly like we see it, a 1 half. The x by a half is a horizontal compression. But a horizontal compression inside the function would be the reciprocal, and we'd have 2x. Awesome. So, this is the easy way to do it, because it's working exactly backwards from how we did the other ones. Okay? What we're going to have to do in more complicated questions is we're going to be more, we're going to label this point as A and this point as B on our original one. And on our image graph, we're going to say that A went here, so we'll write A with a little dash. We'll call that A prime. And this is point where point B went. We'll look at B with a little dash. And we're going to do an analysis between horizontal and vertical distances of A and B and A prime and B prime to find this same thing. We're going to try to find x got multiplied by half and y got multiplied by half in a different method. So the second method looks like this. You've chosen your 2 points. And you start by looking at horizontal distances. I'm going to color code this. So on my red graph, my original graph, what happened when I went from A to B? Horizontally, I would go 1 to the right. Going 1 to the right, we would write as positive 1. You could just write 1, but I'm just showing you that if you went to the left, then you'd write negative 1. And then we look at the horizontal distance from A prime to B prime on the blue graph. And now I'm only going over a half. Half to the right, 0.5. What would you have to multiply to go from 1 to a half? You would have to multiply x by a half. So it's the same idea of getting the half, but now you're doing an analysis of the horizontal and the vertical distances. So we've done the horizontal. Next, we'll do the vertical distances. Same thing, I'll go to my red graph first, my original first. From A to B. Well, A is starting at -8, and it goes up to B, which is at +9. We will have gone up 17 units. Then I check from A prime to B prime. My y value at A prime is -4. At B prime, it's at 4.5. We have gone up 8.5. What would I have to multiply to go from 17 to 8.5? Again, y by half. So in the next lesson, this is going to come up. This is going to come up that we'll have to do this second method. Even though right now the first method probably makes a lot more sense. It's easy, and definitely, if you can use the first method, do it. Okay, questions for this one are 5, 12, 13, and 14.